The morning sun crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lily Thompson's bedroom, casting long shadows across her custom-designed space. 16-year-old Lily sat in her wheelchair by those windows, watching the gardeners trim the perfectly manicured hedges of her family's vast estate. She absently twisted a strand of her chestnut hair around her finger, a habit she'd developed during those long months in the hospital. 3 years had passed since the car accident that changed everything. 3 years since she'd lost her mother and the use of her legs in one terrible night. The doctors called her survival miraculous. Some days Lily wasn't so sure it felt that way. Miss Lily, Mrs. Chen, their housekeeper for the past decade, knocked gently on the open door. "Your father wants to know if you've looked at the final guest list for Saturday." Lily's stomach tightened. Her birthday. The elaborate celebration her father had been planning for weeks, months. Really? As if a perfect party could somehow make up for everything else that wasn't perfect in their lives. "It's fine. Mrs. Chen, whatever Dad arranged is fine." The older woman stepped into the room, her face softening with concern. "You don't seem very excited about your sweet 16. Lily forced a smile. "I am, really." Mrs. Chen had known Lily long enough to see through the lie, but was kind enough not to call her on it. Instead, she busied herself straightening Lily's already immaculate bookshelf. "The invitations were beautiful," Mrs. Chen offered. "Your father had them specially made in that pretty blue you like." The invitations, 30 of them, sent to every student in Lily's grade at Westridge Academy, embossed cardstock in robin's egg blue with silver lettering, each one hand-delivered by her father's assistant. Each one announcing the birthday celebration of Lily Thompson at their countryside estate, complete with live music, catering by the city's most exclusive restaurant, and a professional photographer. Each one a painful reminder that invitations didn't guarantee guests. "Did anyone RSVP today?" Lily asked, trying to sound casual. Mrs. Chen's brief hesitation told Lily everything before she even spoke. "Not today, but it's still early. People are busy with school and activities." "Right," Lily said, turning back to the window. "Busy." After Mrs. Chen left, Lily wheeled herself over to her desk and opened her laptop. Her social media feed showed what her classmates were actually busy with: Victoria's pool party last weekend, where practically everyone had attended. Photos of Taylor, Zoe, and Maddie at the mall, trying on dresses for the upcoming fall formal. The basketball team's pizza night after winning their game. All events Lily hadn't been invited to. All posts lacking a single comment from her. It hadn't always been this way. Before the accident, Lily had been firmly embedded in Westridge Academy's social scene. Not the most popular girl, but well-liked, with a solid group of friends and invitations to every important event. She'd played tennis, run track, and danced in the school's annual showcase. Then came the accident. The 8 months away from school for surgeries and rehabilitation, and her return to Westridge in a wheelchair. Her father, Richard Thompson, CEO of Thompson Technologies, had spared no expense in making sure his daughter had everything she needed, renovating their home to be fully accessible, hiring the best physical therapists, even donating enough to the school to ensure they fast-tracked accessibility improvements. What he couldn't buy was the easy camaraderie Lily had once shared with her peers. The first few weeks after her return had been awkward but manageable. Friends had clustered around her desk during lunch, asked about her recovery, signed the back of her wheelchair as if it were a cast that would eventually come off. Teachers had been accommodating, students helpful, if a bit too helpful sometimes, reaching for things she could reach herself, speaking too loudly as if her legs' inability to work had somehow affected her hearing. But as weeks turned to months, the awkwardness never fully dissipated. Conversations would halt when she wheeled up to a group. Invitations to homes that weren't wheelchair accessible dwindled, then stopped entirely. Friends who once texted daily now responded with increasing delays, until exchanges faded to birthday wishes and generic holiday greetings. No one was cruel. That might have been easier to address. It was the careful politeness that hurt more, the way former friends would smile and wave from across the cafeteria, rather than join her at her table, specially placed at the end of the room for easier access. The worst part was that Lily understood. She wasn't the same girl they'd known before. She couldn't participate in many of the activities they enjoyed. Her presence was a reminder of how quickly life could change, how fragile the teenage feeling of invincibility really was. Sometimes she even found herself wishing she could avoid herself, escape the constant reminder of everything she'd lost. A knock on her bedroom door pulled Lily from her thoughts. This time it was her father, tall and distinguished in his tailored suit, his dark hair graying at the temples, his eyes carrying the perpetual weariness they'd held since the accident. "There's my birthday girl," Richard said, his smile too bright, too forced. "I just got off the phone with the event planner. Wait until you see what she's designed for Saturday. The backyard will be transformed." Lily nodded, matching his enthusiasm with her own practiced version. "Sounds amazing, Dad." The band confirmed too, that indie group you liked at the charity gala last year. And the chef is preparing that chocolate hazelnut cake you love. "You've thought of everything." Richard crossed the room and knelt beside her wheelchair, taking her hand in his. "I want this birthday to be special, Lilyflower. You deserve that." The childhood nickname nearly broke her. Her father was trying so hard, had been trying so hard for 3 years to fill the gaping holes in their lives. The hole left by her mother's death. The hole created by Lily's paralysis, as if enough money, enough elaborate gestures could somehow restore what they'd lost. "It will be special, Dad," she assured him, squeezing his hand. "Everything looks beautiful. Have your friends been RSVPing? I know teenagers are notorious for waiting until the last minute." Lily looked into her father's hopeful face and couldn't bring herself to tell him the truth, that so far, not a single classmate had accepted the invitation, that the expensive party he'd planned would likely host only the 2 of them plus staff. "A few," she lied. "But you know how it is. Everyone waits until the last day." Relief washed over his features. "Of course they do. Well, we're prepared for the whole class if they all show up." He stood, checking his watch. "I've got a board meeting in 30 minutes. Will you be okay until dinner?" "I've got homework," Lily said, gesturing to her textbooks. "AP Physics waits for no man. Or girl." Richard smiled more genuinely this time. "That's my brilliant daughter. I'll be home by 7 and we can go over the final party details then." After he left, Lily wheeled herself back to the window. The gardeners had moved on to trimming the rose bushes that lined the long circular driveway. Beyond them lay the gates that separated the Thompson estate from the rest of the world. Gates that would open on Saturday to admit guests who probably wouldn't come. Lily thought about canceling the whole thing. It would be easier than facing an empty party. Easier than watching her father's disappointment when he realized how isolated she'd become. But canceling would mean admitting defeat. Acknowledging out loud what she'd only admitted to herself in the darkest moments of night. That her life now existed in a bubble of wealth and disability, disconnected from the normal teenage experience she craved. Her phone buzzed with a text notification. For one hopeful moment, Lily thought it might be an RSVP. Instead, it was her physical therapist confirming tomorrow's appointment. Lily set the phone down and turned her chair toward her desk. Her gaze fell on the framed photo beside her computer. Herself at 13, surrounded by friends at her last birthday party before the accident. Everyone smiling, arms slung casually around each other's shoulders, future stretching endlessly before them. Saturday would be nothing like that photo. But she would smile through it anyway for her father's sake. She would pretend the elaborate party was exactly what she wanted, rather than a painful reminder of everything that had changed. Because what Lily Thompson had learned in the 3 years since the accident was that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was simply show up and face the day, even when that day promised more disappointment than joy, even when the future felt as confined as her body now was. What she couldn't possibly know was that in a small apartment across town, someone unexpected was about to change the course of her carefully managed isolation, starting with a birthday party no one else would attend. Saturday morning arrived with perfect blue skies, as if the weather itself had been arranged by Richard Thompson's executive assistant. Lily woke early, her sleep having been fitful and filled with dreams of empty rooms and silent hallways. For a brief moment after opening her eyes, she considered pretending to be sick. A headache, a fever, anything to call off the elaborate birthday celebration scheduled to begin in just a few hours. But she knew her father would only postpone it, and the dread would start all over again. The household had been bustling since dawn. Through her bedroom window, Lily watched a small army of workers setting up white tents on the lawn, arranging flowers, and stringing twinkling lights through the gay Urdan trees. A truck from Grand Avenue Catering, the most exclusive catering company in the city, had arrived at 8, followed by the event planner's van and a delivery truck filled with what appeared to be even more decorations. All this for a party no one will come to, Lily whispered to herself. A gentle knock on her door preceded Mrs. Chen's entrance. The housekeeper carried a breakfast tray with Lily's favorite blueberry pancakes, a small vase with a single rose, and a birthday card. "Happy birthday, Miss Lily," she said warmly, setting the tray on the bedside table. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen." Lily managed a small smile. "Everything looks amazing outside. Your father wants everything to be perfect. He's been checking on details since 5 this morning." Mrs. Chen helped Lily sit up against her pillows. "He has a surprise for you too." "Another one?" Lily's tone was light, but her heart sank further. More elaborate gestures, more expensive gifts, more of her father trying to compensate for things money couldn't fix. "He asked me to tell you he'd like you ready by 11. He's taking you to the salon in town for hair and makeup before the party." Lily nodded, picking up her fork to at least pretend interest in the pancakes. "I'll be ready." After Mrs. Chen left, Lily opened the card. It was from the housekeeper and her husband, simple but heartfelt. She propped it up on her nightstand, suspecting it might be the only card she'd received today. The trip to the salon was her father's latest attempt at creating a normal teenage experience. The stylist fussed over her, arranging her hair in soft waves and applying makeup that enhanced her features while still looking age-appropriate. Richard sat nearby, smiling encouragingly and answering emails on his phone when he thought she wasn't looking. "You look beautiful, Lily Flower," he said as they drove back to the estate. "Just like your mother." The comparison to her mother, though meant as a compliment, tightened Lily's throat. Her mother, Catherine, had been dead for 3 years, but the grief still felt fresh some days. "Thanks, Dad," she managed to reply. Back at the house, the transformation was complete. The backyard had become something out of a fairy tale, with white tents draped in soft fabric, flower arrangements on every surface, and a small stage where the band was setting up their equipment. Caterers in crisp white uniforms arranged food on long tables, tiny sandwiches cut into perfect triangles, colorful fruit platters, a chocolate fountain with various treats for dipping. In the center of it all stood a 3-tiered birthday cake, decorated with sugared flowers that matched the garden blooms. "What do you think?" Richard asked, his eyes hopeful. "It's amazing," Lily said, and she meant it. The setting was beautiful, worthy of a magazine spread. If only there were going to be people to appreciate it. Richard checked his watch. "People should start arriving in about 30 minutes. Do you want to change now?" Lily nodded and wheeled herself back inside, where Mrs. Chen helped her into the new dress her father had bought for the occasion. A sky-blue sundress with a flowing skirt that draped elegantly over her wheelchair. A small silver necklace with a lily pendant, another gift from her father, completed the outfit. When Lily returned to the backyard, she positioned herself near the entrance where guests would arrive. Richard stood nearby, checking his phone occasionally, his posture growing more rigid as the minutes ticked by. 2 o'clock, the official start time, came and went. No cars approached the gates. No teenagers in birthday attire appeared. The band began to play softly, the music feeling overly loud in the empty space. "They're running late," Richard said, his voice too bright. "You know how teenagers are with time." By 2:30, the catering staff had started exchanging glances. By 3, the event planner had approached Richard twice, whispering questions about whether they should adjust the schedule. By 3:30, even the band's enthusiasm had dimmed, their songs becoming more subdued. Lily sat beneath a banner that read, "Happy 16th Birthday, Lily," surrounded by beautifully wrapped presents from her father. Each one had been carefully chosen, she knew, to bring some joy to her day. But as the minutes stretched into hours with no arrivals, the gifts seemed to mock her with their cheerful paper and ribbons. She noticed her father making phone calls, stepping away to speak in hushed tones, his face growing more concerned with each conversation. She didn't need to hear the words to know what was happening. He was calling parents, trying to find out why no one had come. "Dad," she finally called to him as he ended yet another call. "It's okay. We can just have cake now and let everyone go home." Richard came to her side, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "Just a little longer, Lily. There must be some confusion about the time." The pity in his eyes was unbearable. Worse than her own disappointment was seeing her father, a powerful CEO used to commanding rooms and making million-dollar decisions, reduced to making excuses for teenagers who Couldn't be bothered to attend his daughter's birthday party. There's no confusion, Lily said softly. No one's coming, Dad. They're not my friends anymore. That's not true, he insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. It is true. It has been since I came back to school in this. She gestured to her wheelchair. It's okay. I've accepted it. Richard shook his head, his jaw tight with anger, not at her, she knew, but at the situation, at the unfairness of it all. It's not okay. Those kids, their parents, they should know better. They don't know what to do with me, Lily said, surprised by her own calm. I remind them that bad things can happen to anyone. That's scary when you're 16. Her father looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Pride mixed with sorrow. Amazement at her wisdom alongside fury at the injustice of her isolation. When did you get so grown up? He asked, his voice rough. Lily smiled sadly. About 3 years ago, I think. Richard stood, straightening his shoulders as if preparing for a board meeting. Well, their loss is our gain. We'll have the best party ever, just us. He signaled to the band, who immediately began playing with renewed energy. He grabbed a plate and filled it with food from the elaborate spread, presenting it to Lily with a flourish. Your dinner, madam, he said with an exaggerated bow. Despite herself, Lily laughed. This was her father at his best, refusing to be defeated, determined to salvage joy from disappointment. For the next hour, they pretended. They ate tiny sandwiches and chocolate-covered strawberries. Richard attempted to dance to the band's music, his corporate stiffness making his movements awkward and funny. Lily opened her presents, exclaiming appropriately over each thoughtful gift. They took selfies together beneath the birthday banner, smiling as if the party was exactly what they'd planned. But beneath the forced cheerfulness, Lily could see her father's heartbreak matching her own. All his money, his influence, his careful planning, none of it could fix what was truly broken. He couldn't buy her friends who saw beyond her wheelchair. He couldn't purchase the easy social life she'd lost along with the use of her legs. As the afternoon light began to soften, Richard finally conceded defeat. He approached the event planner, likely to give instructions for winding down the party that never happened. The band began packing up their equipment. Catering staff started clearing away untouched platters of food. Lily wheeled herself to the edge of the patio, looking out over the immaculate grounds of their estate. She didn't cry. She'd done enough of that in the months after the accident. Instead, she felt a strange sense of closure. The empty party had only confirmed what she already knew. Her old life was over. Whatever came next would need to be built from scratch, not patched together from the remnants of who she used to be. She was so lost in thought that she almost didn't hear the distant sound of the estate's gate buzzer. Almost, but not quite. Lily turned her chair, watching as Mrs. Chen hurried across the lawn toward the house, presumably to answer the intercom. Probably a late delivery or someone at the wrong address. But something made her heart beat faster as she waited, watching the path that led from the front of the house to the backyard. Some instinct told her that whatever was about to happen would matter. And then she saw Mrs. Chen returning, but she wasn't alone. Following her was someone Lily had never seen before, someone who would change everything. Lily watched curiously as Mrs. Chen led someone toward the patio. From a distance, she could make out a small figure, definitely not an adult, maybe a child or young teenager. For a wild moment, she thought perhaps one of her classmates had actually shown up, hours late but still here. As they drew closer, that hope faded. The person following Mrs. Chen was a boy who looked to be about 12 years old. He wore jeans that were a bit too short at the ankles and a plain blue t-shirt that had seen better days. In his hands, he clutched something small wrapped in what appeared to be newspaper, decorated with a slightly crushed ribbon. Miss Lily, Mrs. Chen said, her expression a mix of confusion and uncertainty. This young man says he's here for your birthday party. The boy stepped forward. His chin lifted with a confidence that seemed at odds with his worn sneakers, and the nervous way he shifted his weight from one foot to another. I'm Theo, he announced. Theo Jackson. I'm here for the birthday. He held out the newspaper-wrapped package. I brought a present. Lily blinked in surprise, her brain struggling to make sense of this unexpected arrival. She didn't know any Theo Jackson. She'd never seen this boy before in her life. Her father appeared beside her, his business smile firmly in place but questions in his eyes. Hello, Theo. I'm Richard Thompson, Lily's father. Are you from Lily's school? Theo shook his head. No, sir. I go to Oakwood Middle. I'm in 7th grade. I see, Richard said, though it was clear he didn't see at all. And how do you know, Lily? The boy glanced down for just a moment before meeting Richard's gaze directly. I don't exactly know her, sir. My mom cleans houses in this neighborhood. She works for the Wilsons down the street. He gestured vaguely toward the direction of their neighbors. I wait for her sometimes, and I heard about the birthday party. When Mom finished work today, I asked if we could stop by. There was something disarming about his honesty, the way he stated these facts without embarrassment or guile. You heard about my birthday party and just decided to come? Lily asked, finding her voice. Theo nodded. I heard Mrs. Wilson talking on the phone about the big party at the Thompson place for their daughter's 16th birthday. I thought there would be a lot of people here. His eyes scanned the empty backyard, taking in the abandoned food tables, the half-dismantled band equipment, the decorations that now seemed excessive and sad. Where is everybody? The blunt question hung in the air. Mrs. Chen looked uncomfortable. Richard cleared his throat but seemed at a loss for words. It was Lily who finally answered. Nobody came. Nobody? But it's your birthday. Theo's face registered genuine confusion, as if the concept of a birthday party without guests was completely foreign to him. Yes, well, Richard began, but trailed off. Lily felt a strange sense of relief at being able to state the truth so plainly. I had an accident a few years ago, she explained, gesturing to her wheelchair. Things changed after that. People don't really hang out with me anymore. Theo's eyes widened slightly as he seemed to notice the wheelchair for the first time. That's messed up, he said simply. A startled laugh escaped Lily. Yeah, it kind of is. An uncomfortable silence followed, broken only by the sound of the catering staff continuing to pack up in the background. Richard looked torn between sending the boy away and grateful that someone, anyone, had shown up for his daughter's party. Well, Mrs. Chen said finally, since Theo is here, perhaps he would like some cake. We haven't cut it yet. Richard seized on this suggestion with relief. Excellent idea. No reason to let a perfectly good birthday cake go to waste. He turned to the boy. Would you like some cake, Theo? Yes, sir. I'd like that a lot. Just like that, the party that had been winding down found new life. Richard directed the catering staff to set up a small table near the uncut cake. Mrs. Chen brought plates and forks. The event planner, seeming grateful for something to do, quickly rearranged a few decorations to create a more intimate setting. Lily found herself watching Theo with growing curiosity. He stood near the table, still holding his small gift, looking around at the elaborate decorations with undisguised amazement. This is the fanciest place I've ever been, he told Lily as she wheeled up beside him. Your house looks like something from a movie. It's pretty over the top, she agreed. You got a pool too? And a tennis court? He pointed to the structures visible beyond the garden. Yeah, although I don't use the tennis court anymore. She tapped the arm of her wheelchair. Hard to play tennis like this. Theo considered this. You could still swim though, right? My cousin broke his leg once and the doctor said swimming was good therapy. I do swim sometimes, Lily said, surprised by his practical response. Most people either ignored her disability entirely or treated it as an uncomfortable topic to be avoided. Theo seemed to accept it as simply another fact about her, neither particularly tragic nor particularly special. Cool, he said, and then held out his package again. This is for you. It's not much. Lily took the gift, touched by the gesture. The newspaper wrapping was secured with clear tape and decorated with a slightly flattened bow that looked like it had been carefully removed from another package and reused. You really didn't have to bring anything, she said. It's a birthday party, Theo replied, as if this explained everything. You're supposed to bring presents to a birthday party. Lily carefully unwrapped the package, conscious of Theo watching her intently. Inside was a small wooden box with a simple sliding lid. The wood had been polished to a soft shine, the edges sanded smooth. It's beautiful, Lily said, running her fingers over the surface. I made it in wood shop, Theo said, a hint of pride in his voice. My teacher helped with the sanding. It's for keeping special things in, like jewelry or notes or whatever. You made this? Lily opened the lid to reveal the smooth interior, impressed by the craftsmanship. Theo nodded. I like making things. I'm good with my hands. It's perfect. Thank you. Richard approached with the cake now adorned with lit candles. Make a wish, Lily Flower, he said, his eyes warm with a hope that hadn't been there an hour ago. Lily closed her eyes briefly, then blew out the 16 candles in one breath. For the first time that day, her smile was genuine. As Richard cut the cake, Lily found herself studying Theo more closely. He was thin, but not unhealthily so, with close-cropped dark hair and intelligent brown eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. There was an openness to his face, an absence of the awkward pity or careful distance she'd grown accustomed to seeing when people looked at her. This is the best cake I've ever had, Theo declared after his first bite, chocolate frosting at the corner of his mouth. Grand Avenue Catering, Richard said, his tone warming to the boy. Only the best for Lily's birthday. My mom makes good cakes too, Theo said, but not fancy like this. For my birthday, she makes yellow cake with chocolate frosting. That's my favorite. When is your birthday? Lily asked. October 12th. I'll be 13. A teenager, Lily said. That's a big deal. Theo shrugged. I guess. Mom says I'm growing too fast already. As they ate cake, Lily found herself asking Theo questions about his life, genuinely interested in the answers. He lived with his mother and younger sister in an apartment across town. His father wasn't in the picture. He went to Oakwood Middle School, where his favorite subjects were science and shop class. He played basketball at the community center on weekends. He wanted to be an engineer someday, or maybe an architect, someone who builds things that last. What struck Lily most was how easy it was to talk to him. There was no awkward dancing around topics, no careful avoidance of anything that might remind her of what she'd lost. When Theo asked questions about her life before the accident, it wasn't with morbid curiosity, but with straightforward interest. Richard, who had initially kept a watchful eye on their interaction, gradually relaxed. He engaged Theo in conversation about school, his interest in building things, his basketball team. Lily noticed her father's surprise when Theo spoke knowledgeably about a recent technological innovation Thompson Technologies had announced. My science teacher showed us the video about your company's new solar panels, sir. He said they're going to change everything. The sun was beginning to set when a phone rang. Theo pulled out an old model cell phone from his pocket. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm still at the birthday party. Okay, I'll meet you out front. He turned to Lily and Richard. My mom's done with work at the Wilsons. I have to go now. Of course, Richard said. Thank you for coming, Theo. It meant a lot to Lily. Theo looked at Lily. Thanks for the cake. And sorry your friends didn't come. That was really mean of them. Lily smiled at his straightforward assessment. Thanks for making my birthday special. As Mrs. Chen led Theo toward the front of the house, Lily watched him go with an unexpected feeling of loss. For a brief time, he had transformed the sad, empty party into something genuine. Interesting young man, Richard commented, sitting in a chair beside her. Yeah, Lily agreed. He was real. Richard nodded, understanding what she meant without needing explanation. Would you like to invite him back sometime? Lily looked at her father in surprise. Really? Why not? He seems like a good kid. Richard's expression grew thoughtful. Everyone needs friends, Lilyflower. Sometimes they come from unexpected places. For the first time in months, perhaps years, Lily felt a flicker of something like hope. I'd like that, she said. I'd like that very much. 3 days after the birthday party, Lily found herself watching the clock. Theo was coming over after school, an invitation her father had extended through Mrs. Wilson, whose house Theo's mother cleaned. Richard had arranged for the driver to pick Theo up from Oakwood Middle School and bring him to the Thompson estate for the afternoon. He's just a kid, Lily had pointed out when her father proposed the idea. He probably doesn't want to hang out with someone my age. He came to your party, Richard had countered. I think he might surprise you. Now, as the minutes ticked closer to 3:30, Lily felt an unfamiliar nervousness. She'd spent the morning debating what they could do together, finally settling on showing him the game room in the basement, filled with video games, a pool table, and other entertainments that had mostly gone unused since the accident. When the doorbell rang, Lily was waiting in the entryway. Mrs. Chen opened the door to reveal Theo standing on the doorstep, wearing the same worn jeans but a different t-shirt. He carried his backpack over one shoulder and looked both excited and slightly intimidated. Hi, Lily said, wheeling forward. Thanks for coming. Theo shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Thanks for inviting me. Your driver has a really nice car. That's Antonio. Dad uses him for business mostly. He let me pick the radio station, Theo said, clearly impressed by this detail. Lily smiled. Are you hungry? Mrs. Chen made snacks. Theo's eyes lit up. I could eat. After a snack of homemade cookies and fruit in the kitchen, Lily gave Theo a tour of the house. She was used to the mansion's grandeur, but seeing it through his eyes made her notice details she'd long taken for granted. The sweeping staircase in the foyer, which she now bypassed using an elevator installed after her accident, the original artwork on the walls, the view from the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. This place is like 10 of my apartments put together, Theo commented without bitterness, just stating a fact. When they reached the game room, Theo's restraint finally broke. Whoa, you have the new PlayStation. And is that a real pool table? And an air hockey table? He moved from one attraction to another, his excitement palpable. Do you play these all the time? Not really, Lily admitted. Not anymore. Theo paused in his exploration to look at her. Because of your wheelchair, partly. I can still play video games, but some of them are harder now. And I used to play pool with friends, but... She trailed off. But they don't come over. Theo finished for her. He thought for a moment. I bet you could still play pool. You'd just need to do it differently. Before Lily could respond, he was examining the pool table, walking around it with a thoughtful expression. See, you can reach all this side from your chair. He demonstrated, showing how she could position herself. And for the shots you can't reach, you could use this. He picked up a cue extender from the wall rack. My Uncle Tommy has one arm and he uses something like this when he plays at the community center. Lily stared at him. In 3 years, not one of her former friends had ever suggested practical ways she could still participate in activities. They'd either avoided the issue entirely or assumed she couldn't do things without asking. Want to try? Theo asked, already racking up the balls. For the next hour, they played pool. Theo showed no impatience when Lily struggled with certain shots, instead offering suggestions or demonstrating alternatives. He didn't let her win, which she appreciated but celebrated enthusiastically. When she made a difficult shot, "You're pretty good," he said when she sank the 8-ball to win their second game. I used to play a lot with my mom, Lily said, surprised to find she could mention her mother without the usual tightness in her throat. She taught me all her tricks. Where's your mom now? Theo asked, setting up for another game. She died in the same accident that put me in this chair. Theo's hand stilled on the pool cue. That really sucks. I'm sorry. The simple acknowledgement, free of the awkward platitudes adults usually offered, loosened something in Lily's chest. Yeah, it does suck. She found herself adding, my dad tries to make up for it, but it's hard on him too. Theo nodded. My dad left when I was 7. Just packed up one day and didn't come back. Mom says it's his loss, but sometimes I still miss him. They shared a look of understanding, 2 kids who knew what it meant to have a piece of your family missing, even if the circumstances were different. The afternoon passed quickly. They moved from pool to video games, where Theo proved to be skilled but not unbeatable. Lily found herself laughing more than she had in months as they trash-talked during racing games and worked together to solve puzzles in an adventure game. When Antonio arrived to take Theo home, both kids were surprised by how quickly the time had gone. Can I come back? Theo asked as he gathered his backpack. Of course, Lily replied, surprised by how much she meant it. Any time. Cool, maybe next time I can teach you some card games. I'm really good at poker. No real money though, my mom would kill me. Lily laughed. It's a deal. After Theo left, Lily found her father in his home office working on his laptop despite the late hour. Did you have a good time with your friend? He asked, looking up from his screen. I did. He's coming back next week. She hesitated, then added, Dad, I was thinking. Theo mentioned a community center where he plays basketball. They apparently have all kinds of programs. Maybe I could check it out sometime. Richard looked surprised but pleased. Of course. I'll make some calls, see what they offer. No, Dad, Lily said gently. No calls ahead. No special arrangements. I just want to go and see it like a regular person. Her father's expression shifted as understanding dawned. Like a regular person, he repeated softly. Okay, Lily Flower. We can do that. Over the next few weeks, Theo became a regular visitor at the Thompson home. He came twice a week after school, sometimes staying for dinner. Richard arranged for Antonio to pick him up and drive him home, a service Theo initially protested. "My mom says we shouldn't take advantage," until Richard explained that Antonio was on the payroll regardless, and the detour to Theo's apartment was hardly an inconvenience. What amazed Lily most was how Theo treated her disability as simply another factor to work around, not an insurmountable obstacle or a tragedy to be tiptoed around. He never pushed her chair without asking, never assumed she couldn't do something, but also never hesitated to suggest adaptations when needed. "My grandma's in a wheelchair too," he explained one day, as he helped her navigate a narrow path in the garden. "Not all the time, but her arthritis gets bad. She taught me the rules. Don't push without asking, don't talk over someone's head, and don't ever hang bags on the handles unless you ask first." 3 weeks after Theo's first visit, Lily asked her father to take her to the community center. Richard, true to his word, made no advance calls, though she could tell it cost him effort to resist smoothing her path. The East Side Community Center was nothing like the exclusive clubs the Thompsons usually frequented. The building was older, the equipment well used but carefully maintained. What struck Lily immediately was the diversity. People of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities sharing the space with comfortable familiarity. Theo had basketball practice that afternoon and was surprised to see Lily and her father in the stands. "You came," he called out during a break, jogging over with a grin. Sweat plastered his hair to his forehead, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "Are you staying to watch?" "If that's okay," Lily said. "It's awesome. Just wait till you see our team play. Coach Pete says we might make the city finals this year." Lily and Richard stayed for the entire practice. Afterward, Theo gave them a tour of the center, proudly showing off the art room where his little sister took classes, the computer lab where he sometimes did homework, the multi-purpose room where, he mentioned casually, they held wheelchair basketball games on Thursday evenings. On the drive home, Lily was quiet, processing everything she'd seen. "They have a good program there," Richard observed. "I notice they're raising money for building improvements." Lily recognized the tone. Her father, the CEO, already thinking of solutions, of ways to fix things with money. But this time she didn't mind, because she'd also seen something at the community center that all her father's wealth hadn't been able to give her. A place where differences were acknowledged but not defining, where adaptations were made without fanfare, where people like her weren't oddities but just part of the community. "Dad," she said as they pulled into their driveway, "I want to go back on Thursday, for the wheelchair basketball." Richard nodded, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "Then that's what we'll do." Thursday evening found Lily sitting nervously in her wheelchair at the edge of the Eastside Community Center's gymnasium. The space had been transformed for wheelchair basketball. Regular hoops lowered slightly, special chairs lined up along the sidelines, players of varying ages warming up on the court. "You don't have to play today," Richard reminded her, sitting on a bench nearby. "You can just watch." "I know," Lily said, though her eyes never left the players. Some were clearly experienced, wheeling with impressive speed and control. Others seemed newer, still learning to maneuver and catch at the same time. All of them, she noticed, looked focused and happy. A woman in her 30s wheeled over to them. Her athletic build and confident demeanor suggested she was in charge. "You must be Lily," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Coach Diana. Theo told me you might be coming today." "Hi," Lily managed, suddenly shy. "First time watching wheelchair basketball?" Diana asked. "Yes, I've never seen it played before," Diana nodded. "It's a great sport. Takes skill, strength, and serious coordination." She studied Lily thoughtfully. "Theo mentioned you might be interested in trying it out." "I'm not sure," Lily admitted. "I've never been very athletic, even before." She gestured to her legs. "Upper body strength is what matters here," Diana said matter-of-factly. "And that can be developed. Why don't you watch today? And if you're interested, we can get you started with some basics next time." The simple assumption that there would be a next time eased something in Lily's chest. "I'd like that." As the practice began, Lily found herself drawn into the game. The rules were similar to regular basketball with a few adaptations, and the players' skill levels varied widely. But what struck her most was the atmosphere. There was competitiveness, certainly, but also a spirit of camaraderie and support that transcended who won or lost. She noticed a boy about her age who seemed to be a newer player, struggling a bit with coordination. Instead of impatience, his teammates offered quick tips and encouragement. When he finally made a basket, everyone cheered as if he'd scored a game-winning shot. Halfway through the session, Diana wheeled back to Lily. "Want to try a few passes?" "No pressure, just to get a feel for it." Lily hesitated, then nodded. Her father gave her an encouraging smile as she followed Diana to a quieter corner of the gym. "Here." Diana handed her a basketball. "Just try to pass it back and forth with me first." The ball felt heavy and unfamiliar in Lily's hands, but Diana was patient, showing her how to hold it properly and put enough force behind her passes. Soon they established a rhythm, the ball traveling between them with increasing confidence. "Good. Now let's try with you moving a little." Diana demonstrated how to hold the ball in her lap while pushing her chair, then pass when ready. Lily's first attempts were awkward. Coordinating the chair and the ball required more focus than she expected, and her throws went wide several times. But Diana never showed frustration, only offered tips and encouragement. By the end of 20 minutes, Lily had worked up a light sweat and felt a sense of accomplishment she hadn't experienced in years. "You've got good instincts," Diana said as they wrapped up. "If you want to join us regularly, we practice Thursdays and Saturdays." "Can I think about it?" Lily asked. "Of course. No pressure." Diana handed her a pamphlet about the program. "And even if basketball isn't your thing, we have other adaptive sports and activities. The art studio is amazing, there's a cooking class that's really popular, and we just started a photography club." On the drive home, Lily was quiet, processing the experience. "What did you think?" Richard finally asked. "It was different," Lily said slowly. "Everyone was so normal about everything. About the wheelchairs, I mean. I noticed that too. Coach Diana said they have other programs besides basketball. Maybe I could try something else if basketball doesn't work out." Richard nodded. "Whatever you want to explore, Lily Flower." "Dad," Lily said after a moment, "I saw their fundraising board. They're pretty far from their goal for the building improvements." Her father smiled slightly. "I noticed that too. Would you consider? I mean, I know Thompson Technologies does community grants sometimes." "Already on it," Richard said. "I've asked my assistant to get me information on their organization. But," he added, seeing her expression, "if we do help, it would be as a regular community partner, not as special treatment because of you. Would that be okay?" Lily smiled, grateful for his understanding. "That would be perfect." Over the next few months, the community center became a regular part of Lily's life. She tried wheelchair basketball but eventually found her niche in the art studio, discovering a talent for painting she hadn't known she possessed. The center's art instructor, a retired teacher named Mrs. Alvarez, took Lily under her wing, challenging her to explore different techniques and styles. Richard made good on his promise to help the center, but in a way that respected the organization's independence. Thompson Technologies became a major donor to their building fund. But Richard also enlisted other business leaders to contribute, turning it into a community-wide effort rather than a personal project. Theo remained a constant in Lily's life, but her social circle gradually expanded. She met Grace, a girl her age who volunteered at the center and shared her interest in art. She connected with Josh, another wheelchair user who became something of a mentor, showing her adaptive techniques for everything from cooking to getting around in crowded spaces. When Lily mentioned to her father that she was tired of being homeschooled, they explored options together. She ultimately decided to transfer to the public high school near the community center for her junior year, a school with a strong adaptive program and a diverse student body. It wouldn't be easy, they both knew, but Lily was ready for the challenge. 6 months after her 16th birthday, the birthday no one had attended, Lily celebrated what she jokingly called her half-birthday at the community center. This time, the gathering was nothing like the elaborate, empty party her father had planned before. The community center's multipurpose room was decorated with handmade banners created by the art class. The food was potluck style with contributions from center members and staff. The music came from a playlist Theo had created, played through the center's somewhat tinny speakers, and the room was full of people. Theo was there with his mother and little sister, beaming with pride as he introduced his family to everyone. Coach Diana and the basketball team came by after practice. Mrs. Alvarez brought the other art students. Grace helped serve cake. Josh wheeled around, making sure everyone had drinks. Richard moved through the crowd, looking more relaxed than Lily had seen him in years. He chatted with Theo's mother about her son's mechanical aptitude. He discussed funding opportunities with the center's director. He even joined a spirited game of cards with some of the seniors who used the center during weekdays. As Lily watched her father laugh at something Theo's sister said, she reflected on how much had changed. The man who once thought he could fix everything with money and influence had learned there were other kinds of resources equally valuable. Community, acceptance, genuine connection. Mrs. Alvarez approached, handing Lily a wrapped canvas. From the art class, she said, "Happy half-birthday." Lily unwrapped it to find a collaborative painting with each student contributing a section. At the center was a portrait of Lily herself, sitting at an easel, looking focused and content. "We see you," Mrs. Alvarez said simply. "Not just your chair, you." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. "Thank you." Later, as the party was winding down, Theo plopped into a chair beside her, exhausted from dancing with his sister. "Better than your last party, huh?" he asked with his characteristic directness. Lily laughed. "Definitely better. You know what's funny?" Theo said, reaching for another piece of cake. "If people had come to your fancy party, I never would have met you. And then none of this would have happened." Lily considered this. "I think about that sometimes. How something that seemed so awful at the time led to something good. My mom calls that finding the blessing in the storm," Theo said through a mouthful of cake. "Your mom is pretty smart." "Yeah, she is." Theo swallowed his cake and grew uncharacteristically serious. "You know your dad's talking to her about a job at his company? In the maintenance department. Better pay, better hours, really?" This was news to Lily. "Yeah, she's got an interview next week. And he's talking about some kind of scholarship program for kids from my school. Says there's a lot of untapped potential there." Lily smiled, unsurprised. Her father still believed in fixing problems, but his approach had evolved. He was learning to listen first, to understand what people actually needed rather than what he assumed they needed. As if summoned by their conversation, Richard appeared beside them. "Almost ready to go, Lilyflower. It's getting late. 5 more minutes?" she asked. "Of course." He looked around the room at the diverse group of people who had come together to celebrate his daughter. This was a good party. "The best," Lily agreed. As her father moved away to say his goodbyes, Lily took a moment to absorb the scene around her. 6 months ago, she'd sat alone in her wheelchair beneath expensive decorations, surrounded by untouched food and empty chairs, feeling more isolated than she'd ever been. Today, she sat in the same wheelchair in a room with scuffed floors and fluorescent lighting, with leftover cake and paper plates, feeling more connected than she'd thought possible. Her world, which had seemed so confined after the accident, had expanded again, not to what it was before, but to something new and equally valuable, all because a boy had knocked on the door when no one else came.